President Bush wants Robert Zoellick, a former U.S. trade representative, to lead the World Bank. Bush plans to make his selection official today, and he expects the bank's board to accept it. Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson received some positive reactions from other countries to the choice. Zoellick would replace Paul Wolfowitz, whom, as you know, resigned after a storm of criticism. And for some insight on this, we're joined this morning by Faiz Shakir. He's Director of Research for the Center of American Progress. Joins us today from Washington. Faiz, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Is he the right man?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good pick. It's also a safe pick. I wish President Bush had chosen him in 2005 when Zoellick was under consideration then, and we could have avoided the whole mess over Wolfowitz. But I think he's got a great resume, great experience as Deputy Secretary of State, also as U.S. Trade Rep. And I think he's coming in with a lot of good international contacts. And I think there's a few challenges there for him, but I think it's the right guy to try to rectify the problems that have occurred over the Wolfowitz regime.
Yeah, one of the main engines behind the Doha talks. He's reached out to the people in Darfur.
Yeah.
Do you think, given those international contacts and relationships, he can build some sort of cohesiveness after the, as you say, the mess that Wolfowitz was?
Well, I think he comes in with a good reputation, which helps a lot. But then once you move past the reputation, he's got some challenges there. One is he going to replace the Wolfowitz staff? Is he going to try to clean house? I would recommend that he do that. Bring in his own staff, show that he's willing to start to work with the World Bank, because, of course, one of the things that dogged Wolfowitz was that he came in with a preconceived agenda that he wanted to force down the World Bank's throat. So for Zoellick, he's got to show that he's willing to work with the member states and the employees.
Yeah, of course, there's some out there who say the World Bank was against Wolfowitz from the beginning because of his involvement with the Iraq War. And here's a quote from the Washington Post this morning from an unnamed World Bank official. He's still from the same people who brought you the Iraq War, the same people who brought you Wolfowitz and Rumsfeld. There's immediate jaundice about his country of origin. Does he walk in there with the cards stacked against him?
No, I don't think he does necessarily. I think he was one of President Bush's earliest foreign policy advisors, but he's never been seen as an ideological extremist. And I think he also hasn't been weighed down by the baggage of the Iraq War. He's not seen as one of the principal architects. He wasn't one.
But he came from the administration, worked for Condoleezza Rice. I think it's that association talking about.
No, the association certainly, I mean, if the administration chose anybody, that association would be there, unfortunately, even if it were Bill Frist or Tony Blair or whoever else was under consideration. So that's always going to be on the table. But I think Zoellick doesn't have that same issue that many others, including Wolfowitz, had, the extent of the Iraq baggage hanging over his neck.
Is the job as important as it once was, given the availability of credit and the way direct investment is flowing from country to country these days?
Yeah, no, I think it's still very important, and I think it's going to be about, you know, Paul Wolfowitz said an interesting thing in his BBC interview. As much as he was criticizing the media for his downfall, he also said that the World Bank will be gauged on its effectiveness by how much it does for Africa over the next 5 years. I think he sees it as an institution that has a lot of power, and I think it needs to be wielded properly. Unfortunately, Wolfowitz wasn't the guy to get it done, but people recognize that there's $23 billion in loans out there that the World Bank controls, and if you use that properly, I think you can make a heck of a lot of difference.
Yeah, and I think, well, remains to be seen whether or not he can continue with the Wolfowitz agenda of trying to cut down on the corruption that really got in the way of the flow of all that capital.
Yeah, but corruption is important. Everyone's united on that, but the corruption is not the ends. You also want to make sure you're reducing corruption in order to eliminate poverty and promote economic development. If there's one thing that's kind of dogging Zoellick a little bit, it's that there's groups concerned he doesn't have the experience on the economic development side. And so I think he's going to have to try to prove that, but I certainly have confidence that he can show that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if I'd want that job after what's happened, but he's got a lot of courage going in and trying to fix that situation. Faiz, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Faiz Shakir joining us from Washington. Still to come this morning.